In a home where things are normally orderly and very scheduled, somewhat precise and calm, you might need to introduce some intentional chaos. It's great having you with me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. Yesterday, we talked about the importance of affectionate humor in your household. Being a person who, especially when my children were young, kept an orderly, neat, scheduled kind of a household just every once in a while. I don't think more than maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But to change it up and to have fun with everybody, we would have a day of intentional chaos. My kids had no idea that it was coming, and every single time it was a big surprise. That's the point. Life could get boring, life could get routine, life could get ho hum another day. And as you already know, I believe in living a full and a vibrant life, and that involves changing it up. Okay? So we would have a day of intentional chaos. I would get the kids up and I would burn the toast. You have to know, I don't burn anything. So I'd give them burned toast with something really strange that they wouldn't normally eat, blackberry jam or something kind of weird. And they'd get up and they'd go, Mom, what is this? I'd say, oh, today is a different kind of a day. And oh my goodness, you have your shirt on all wrong. And they'd be like, no, I don't. The tag's in the back. I'd say, yeah, that's the problem. So we'd turn the shirt wrong side out, put the tag in the front. So they're wearing their clothes backwards and wrong side out. I'd have them put their pants on backwards. You should see a little boy when he has to pee and his zipper's in the back. It's totally crazy. Anyway, really fun. That's what I mean. It's an intentional chaos kind of day. And where I'm pretty much a matchy sort of a person, things need to go together. Uh, you don't have to be all matchy. In fact, I would wear 2 different earrings. I'd let my kids wear 2 different socks or even 2 different shoes. Yeah, it was an intentional chaos kind of day. Oh, and we didn't just stay home so we saw each other. We'd go to the store. We'd go to the store so we could see how people looked at us. And people definitely look at you. Oh my goodness. Sometimes we would smear peanut butter or jelly or something down their shirt or down their face. Just really intentionally look like a mess and go someplace, right? Uh, and it was really fun. We would register how people responded to us and people who knew us, who were used to my kids being dressed really nicely and really neatly, and it was all right. And so we would do things. Now, I've got to tell you, I'm not really big on messes, and I'm really not very fond of cleaning them up. But we could do it outdoors and we had a hose, and so sometimes is what we would do. We would do things like we would all get a spoon and we'd have an assortment in front of us: peanut butter, jelly, yogurt. I'm trying to remember some of the stuff we used to use, honestly. Oh, pickle relish. It makes great. Anyway, you get it in your spoon, and you know how you take your spoon and you go and fling it on somebody. It's not the same as you see sometimes in movies where people are picking up these wads of food. That's ridiculous, and there's no creativity in there. No, you use a spoon. You see how well you can fling it, and change it up. I mean, use a fork or use a knife. Oh, I know one: mayonnaise. Oh my goodness. You know, I'm a big proponent of going to the Salvation Army or whatever, buy a shirt for a quarter. Nowadays, of course, it's $1, but back in the day when my kids were little, it was a quarter. Sometimes even it was 10 cents. I didn't care what happened to those clothes. I wasn't even going to have to wash them. I was just going to put them in the trash can. Big deal. You know, you spend $50. That was back in the day. Now it's 125. But going to Disney World or other things when you can do this for a couple bucks at home, and it's just as fun. So we would do crazy things with food. Sometimes we'd set up a target, see who could land better on different parts of the target. We'd do things. We had tiddlywinks. We had these little jumping. Trying to remember. Oh, ants in your pants. That's the name of that game. We did have tiddlywinks too. We also had pickup sticks. All of these crazy kinds of things that under normal circumstances we didn't play with every day because anyway, there were just reasons why it was really challenging. So we would do all these crazy things. Normally, we'll say it was a Tuesday. So it was our day to fold the clothes and put everything away. We just took the day off. It's an intentional chaos kind of day. And so we didn't have to fold anything and we didn't have to do any work. We just acted like a bunch of nuts, maniacs, basically. We would still do things like bake cookies or brownies or whatever we were going to make that day. We would intentionally do them kind of crazy. We would change the recipe around. We would put things in backwards. And sometimes actually it wasn't so bad. Other times it was barely edible, but we just did everything kind of nuts. It was an intentional chaos kind of day. I always wanted to go down the road in reverse, but I never did it. I didn't want to freak out other drivers or get into an accident, but sometimes we would go to a parking lot. We would drive around a little bit crazy, and it was really fun. And so, on an intentional chaos kind of a day in your family, whatever that might look like, I want you to totally change it up. Let things be way out of the routine. And so when your child is used to this very orderly, structured, disciplined life, which should be the norm, and they get this intentional chaos day, they have so much fun, so much fun. And they see another part of you, another element of you as a parent that they need to see. I admit to you that it will take creativity. We would do things like take a cardboard box and cut a hole out of the cardboard box on two sides. So one person would go in, and oftentimes we'd rig up a little piece of cloth that was a curtain. So they would do something in there and they would describe it. And we had to try to figure out what they were doing because they didn't tell us what they were doing. They were just describing things that were going on around them. And then they would go out of the box. So we would put the box so that they could escape. And we'd think they were still in the box. And so we'd go looking for them, and they weren't there, and we had to go find them. Let me tell you another of intentional chaos. Now, see, you don't have to call this to your kids. You can call it a backwards day. You can call it a crazy day. Call it whatever you want. You can call it a day of chaos, but sometimes chaos has a negative term or a negative thought associated with it. So if you don't like that word, find a better word. Today's all backwards. So in the morning we're going to have dinner, and at lunch we're going to have breakfast, and in the evening time we're going to eat a sandwich. Just introduce as much kind of craziness as you can. Your child starts to understand the value of imagination. Oh, and they find out you have one. And if you don't, you better get some books that are going to help you out. There's a really good one. I think it's called 100 Ways to Go on a Date for a Little Money. I actually bought that book for my son when he was a teenager. And when he started dating his wife, he just went through the list. I think he did all 100 things. She said that she thought he was the most amazing, fascinating man because he could come up with more stuff for them to do. She could hardly believe the extent of his creativity. This might include things like having a picnic in the winter. I'm not kidding you. Put a quilt on the ground, everybody bundle up, go outdoors and eat hot dogs and potato chips. Yeah, that's pretty crazy, not your normal thing. Or in the dead of summer, and I grant you, I can tolerate heat. Some people wouldn't be able to hack this. Put on mittens and boots and take a walk through the neighborhood. Wait until you see the way that people look at you like you've just absolutely lost your mind. And so it's actually really fun and a little bit crazy. And you can take ice, and especially if you have a good crusher, you can make modified snowballs and have a snowball fight in the middle of July. You just have to be careful because they're a little harder than snowballs. They can hurt. So you're not trying to kill someone, you're just trying to have fun. So you can have a modified snowball fight in the middle of the summertime, as well as have a picnic in the winter. I hope you're starting to get the idea of what I mean by intentional chaos. Here's another thing you can do. This is very challenging, and I am a good reader, so believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Start at the back of the book. So say your kid loves Go Dog Go, and he reads it every single night, and he just loves this crazy book. So instead, you read the book in the morning, you have it at the breakfast table, but you read the back page first, and you go backwards through the book. That's also a really good exercise for your child, and they see that there is a reason for order, for organization, for discipline and structure. On those days, at the end of the day, you can say, Sometimes in life, there are going to be unexpected, chaotic things that happen, and we need to handle those things. But isn't it great that in general we have an orderly, structured, disciplined life? It'll actually help one of those more rigid kids loosen up a little bit. It'll have one of those free thinking, free falling kind of kids see and appreciate the value of why you have an orderly, organized home. It really does great things. It's actually very fun, and it is a great learning tool. So I would like to encourage you a lot to at least a couple times a year have a day of intentional chaos. It takes planning, there's no question about that. It will require, like I said, some creativity and some thought, some imagination. All right. If you're one of these people who basically doesn't ever let your kids play with the Play Doh because you don't want it all over the carpet, and wow, honey, I have an appreciation for that one a lot. Make some Play Doh, which is really pretty easy to do, or else go ahead and go buy some and do it outdoors. So, again, in this kind of intentional chaos kind of a day, they get to do stuff they normally don't get to do. So if they love to finger paint and you don't usually let them do it, buy some reasonable, acrylic paint at Dollar Tree or Michael's, Hobby Lobby, wherever. And again, it's a great thing to do it outdoors. And they have on their clothes that you're not going to care how they're going to look at the end of the day. And let them paint with their hands, let them paint with a brush, let them paint unusual things. Let them paint a can out of the garbage. You might be really surprised. They might come up with a good pencil cup, really. So don't assume it's all going to be ugly or terrible. Let them paint things like an old dish that you have that you're going to throw out or give away, and let them paint on that. Find out how things work on glass or on metal. It is an instructional day as well as a kind of wild and crazy fun day. And so, in this intentional chaos day, start using your creativity and your imagination and let your kids do things they normally don't get to do and let them see things in a way that's entirely different. The other thing is, if your kid is one of these kids who only eats the same thing every single time, so say he always eats ketchup on his hot dog. Well, today is a chaotic day. So today you're going to eat mayonnaise on your hot dog. You only just cut them up in 4 parts, say, inside the bun, and let them put things on there they normally wouldn't eat. That way, if they take a bite and it's absolutely disgusting, no big deal, not a gigantic waste, but intentionally change up not only what they would do, but what you would do. Okay? So try peanut butter on your hot dog. I can't imagine. But I have to tell you that when I would do these days with my kids, they would come up with the wildest and craziest stuff. And we learned some really great things, as a matter of fact, certain things that we started to do differently because of some of our crazy chaos days. I just want you to know you can be a great parent, but get stuck. All right? This is about developing a little bit of wild and crazy and fun and just approaching things really differently. After you do this once or twice, your kids will get excited and you can start keeping a notebook. You can say, the next time we have a crazy chaos day, let's whatever. And let your kids give input or put ideas into there. And they'll be really excited in future 6 months or a year from now when you have a crazy chaos day and they get to do their idea, or as a whole family, you implement their thoughts out of the crazy chaos notebook, ideas of things to do. I'm going to give you one last thing that we always loved, all that junk mail that you're sick of. And so you put it through the shredder or whatever, and you got all that confetti. Because that's what that is. And so if your kid has one of these, a tricycle or one of these little big wheel kind of plastic wheel dealies they can ride around, let them have a parade. And you're the audience. And so you're really cheering them on and you're throwing confetti over them and you just use what you have on hand. Yeah, of course, you got to clean it up a little bit. Everything that you do, you have to clean up some, but at least this is biodegradable. It's not like it's going to cause any great harm to the environment. It's a lot of fun for the kids. The other thing that I would frequently do is let my kids dress up wild and crazy and play different kinds of games. And so you know that I sewed them things like clown costumes, and they had wedding clothes, and they had crazy party clothes, and oftentimes on crazy chaos days they got to dress up and we'd have a parade through the neighborhood. I bought a pair of little toy cymbals at a place that were really noisy, and they weren't allowed to play those on a regular day, and a drum, and just have a miniature parade. There are so many things to do that are a blast, and you have an imagination. You have a creative spirit. I want to encourage you occasionally to have a day of intentional chaos. My question for this day is, how fun are you? And I do mean as a parent. If you don't have fun with your kids, you're missing a huge element of what needs to happen to make joy and life at your house. So have a great day today with your kids. Have fun. And let me know what you came up with for your crazy, chaotic days. Thank you today for being with me. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.